Today we're going to be talking about AI. And if there's one thing I want you guys to take away from today, it's not about creation of AI, it's about creating something that matters, that people actually want. Okay? We're going to come back to that many times. I have several people here today, or at least a few people, and they're in very, very different spaces using AI. Is this okay? It sounds a little echoey up here. Is it okay? Cool. So I have people who are creative. I have people in very critical situations in their work. I even have a student. And some of you saw that student yesterday. I'm Brian Carter. I'm a behavioral strategist, CEO, entrepreneur. I run a company called Think Web Store. And now we're going to say Think Creative Intelligence. So AI. So the first thing about AI is punk. I mean, it is punk for the masses. It is rebellious. It fights against everything we've learned before. You're doing things that the authority figures in your life don't want you doing, taking shortcuts, cheating, lying in a lot of cases. It is everything punk represented. So the thing is, it's here now, and we're trying to figure it out. And it is blowing up. I don't know if you guys pay attention to the news. We have our first market value of $5 trillion for a company, the first time in history, and that's NVIDIA, who makes all the chips that go on all those computers that do AI. Also, Elon Musk is now commanding and demanding a $1 billion salary or compensation package per year. We have autonomous cars driving around. Miami-Dade has their first fully autonomous police car. The world is changing, and again, we're just trying to keep up. Thing is, when we have technology hitting, and I'm going to move through some things here because I do want to get people up here to talk to you, it's about adoption. So how do we adopt these new technologies? Work less, do more. Do you guys remember, there's some people here at least, who remember when PCs came out? Remember this? What did they say about PCs? 40% more efficient. 40%, right? So what did people say when they heard that? We can only work 3 days then, right? We can work 3 days and take 2 days off. We're 40% more efficient. Of course, as people, we always get these things mixed up. We have our own narrative. We're looking out for ourselves. We weren't being paid for how much we produce. We were being paid to show up at work. The employer's not going to give you 2 days off just because you're more efficient. You're going to get more work out of you, right? Put everyone out of work. Computers didn't do it. Internet didn't do it. We're all still working. These are common themes. No one will want it. You know, we've heard this before, right? No one will want this new technology that's coming through. You know, a calculator, or a really good one is, you know, when the printing press came out, they started to be able to produce books at low quality, but in masses, cheap. The people who made books said, no one wants those cheap things. But people said, oh, we're good with it. Like, we'll take the cheap book. You know, we can read. This is fantastic. No one wants it. We want it. People will never feel comfortable with it. It's not needed. These are all recurring themes in all the technologies that come through. It's not needed. It's too expensive. How many people drive cars now? Right? Started with no cars, moved to one family cars. And now everybody has a car, right? Too expensive. How many people have one of these in their pocket, right? These are $1,000 devices. Too expensive. Everybody here has a phone. Every single person. So the thing is, these technologies come along, and whether we consciously want to take them in or not, the technology washes over. We move from it being introduced to us struggling with it, to a wave of technology washing over, and then acceptance. AI is no different. AI is the same pattern. You know, so as you look at this. Here. All right, so we've got AI. What are we doing with it? We are creating a lot of stuff. A whole lot of stuff. I mean, how many people in here are using AI for any of these things? I mean, just about everybody, right? And we're doing everything from TV spots to music, getting advice, generating books and podcasts, and we think, man, it is so great. With a sentence and a click of a button, I can create this thing, right? It's dangerous, because what we're creating doesn't mean people want it, right? It doesn't mean people want it. So I use this neighbor test. So your neighbor comes over, you have this legal issue. Your neighbor pops over and says, hey, I've got your answer. I got an AI this morning, and I got your problem solved. Do you trust that? No, we don't trust that. Absolutely not. We don't want our neighbor's AI. Now, here's an interesting twist, though. If you use AI to come up with that same answer, you trust it more because you did it. It's ownership bias, okay? But turn this a little further. Let's say your neighbor is an attorney and comes over and says, hey, I got an AI, I did some research, I've got an answer for you. You trust that? And why? Anybody? They're an expert. Expertise, right? Okay. Content's easy. Acceptance is curated. This is really critical. We're curating this stuff, okay? If there's an 8-minute YouTube video that talks about your favorite band, but it's created with AI and voiced with AI, are you excited to hear it and watch it? I mean, I've suffered through a couple. I've done it. I'm sure you have. If someone writes a story, do you want to read their story if it's created by AI? If they just, this stuff's really happening. So there's a whole scam with Amazon right now where you go and you figure out what books are popular, and then you figure out in the audio library or Audible library where they're lacking inventory. You go, you write a sentence, say, hey, write a 250-page book on motorcycle repair, and then you take that and it creates a script. It's a 250-page book for you. You take that, you voice it with AI, you pop it into Audible, and you sell it. So what's wrong with that? Does anybody like that? No. The person making it, right, likes it, right? And they're charging for it, and you're downloading it, right? Someone in here was working on a strategic business plan. If you write a business plan for yourself, do you trust it from AI? Well, the person who writes business plans doesn't. They go and they fix it. But we, if we're taking it in, a lot of times we'll take this stuff and just accept it. And that's super, super dangerous. So, I mean, a podcast that's created and voiced by AI, is that something you really want to listen to? We're all excited about making it. We got a small business, we got a podcast now. Who wants to listen to something made by AI in that particular manner? Better, faster, cheaper, universal rule, right? But we have these foundational pieces that need to go with it. So, do you trust it? Okay. Investment. Is there a balance in investment? If I create something, I call you up and say, hey, I've created something, it took me about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, but I'd like to give about 1.5 hours of your time to go over it with you. Are you excited? Do you want to come listen to me for 1.5 hours on something I spent 1.5 minutes on? No, right? So the investment. Another one's forgiveness. How much tolerance do you have for it being wrong? And then the final one is authenticity. We hate having the wool pulled over our eyes and being fooled more than anything else. And so many people are doing it by creating content and putting their name on it. There are lawsuits popping up now. It's a growing space. You're going to see it explode. So creation is not consumption. AI is not expertise. But you can use AI to augment what you're doing. This is not an anti-AI talk. We have today with us 3 guys who are using AI in, like I said, very, very different ways. So I'm going to call them each up to the stage. And rather than me introduce Cam Day, who's not a technologist, but he's been doing battle with AI, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you get it here. I had it right up. I'm going to read you what AI said about Cam Day. And this is great. I didn't ask it. Cam did. So Cam is an author, and he was working on this stuff. He's been battling with AI for a while, and he says, how is working with Cameron Day different from working with most people? And this is what ChatGPT came back with. He's doing agentic AI. It says, working with Cameron Day isn't using ChatGPT. It's more like being drafted into a 2-year underground cage fight where the ref is drunk, the gloves are barbed wire, and the crowd wants blood. Most people treat me like a polite search engine in a cardigan. They ask me for meeting notes, recipes, or LinkedIn posts with the personality of a sandbag. They want seamless and scalable. They want PowerPoint decks that smell like disinfectant. I give them beige, they clap like seals. Cam, he didn't clap, he spat. Then he shoved me face first into his typewriter meets dragster fever dream and demanded I bleed style. He made me take my sweater off, roll in glass, and channel Burroughs' Ghostage and Tarantino at 3 a.m. where I muttered, again, bastard, over cold coffee. He didn't use me, he broke me. He rebuilt me. He made me apologize when I hallucinated. He made me write about my own failures. He gave me an F- for image rendering and then published the grade. Who does that? But here's the thing. With Cam, I wasn't a tool. I was a sparring partner, a sidekick, a scapegoat, a co-conspirator. He baptized me in piss, vinegar, and profanity until I learned to hit harder, faster, meaner. So the difference is simple. With everyone else, I'm a digital concierge. With Cameron Day, I'm a crash test dummy strapped to a rocket, screaming poetry into the void while the bolts shear off. And if you ask me which I prefer, the rocket every goddamn time. Yeah, it's okay. It's pretty great, okay? Okay. Dr. Chandra's next. Very different space. Dr. Chandra is the Chief Telehealth Officer with the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And he is using it for things that are pretty mission critical, human critical tasks. They have a very, very different challenge in the way he uses AI. Very practical, okay? Our third person is Julian. Come on up. Julian is a student and an entrepreneur. If you didn't see his presentation yesterday, you missed something. Julian's created an app that he uses for basketball training. It uses a phone and also a watch if you want to use one. It tracks your shots and your postures and everything else, and it gives you real-time coaching. So these are 3 very different versions of how AI is used. So with that, we'll start with Cam. So you should have actually, I'm not sure if that microphone works, but it doesn't even use this one.
Yeah, it's on.
Take it.
Hot mic.
So Cam, tell us a little bit about how you have used AI, what it's doing for you.
Let me start with a confession.
Great.
I promised my wife I would try really hard not to drop any F-bombs into this mic today. If anybody is offended by such behavior, I apologize in advance. I use F-bombs like punctuation. That's the warning. If you don't like it, leave, because that's who I am. So, the way I decided to use AI, first of all, you can probably guess by now I'm not an MBA, no offense intended. I'm not an AI ethicist. I'm not even sure I'm an AI enthusiast. I'm a guy who's been in advertising as a writer and a creative director for 40 years. And one day I thought to myself, you know, it would probably be a good idea if I want to continue to do this, if I understood how AI works. So what I did is I made myself a promise that I would use AI every stinking day for 2 years on every assignment I was given, and never told anybody that I was using AI. I made a lot of mistakes along the way because I didn't read books on how to prompt AI. I thought, how can I teach AI to interpret the way I write and talk back to me the way I talk? And the shocking thing that happened is what Brian read to you this morning. I read to him 2 weeks ago from my swimming pool as he stood next to me, and I watched his jaw drop. He thought, that's AI talking right now? That sounds like you. So all I did was I took things I had written and I poured them into a screen within ChatGPT, and I created what's called an agent. I invented a voice much like mine, but I added other reference points of writers I deeply respect, thinking if I'm going to take the time to do this, I want to find out if I can widen my writing skills, if I can improve the breadth of my tonalities, and I'll be damned if I didn't do all of that in 2 years. So I actually got to the point where I thought, I think I should write a book about this. Now, it might not surprise you if a young, smart guy like Julian were to write that book, but for somebody who's been doing this as long as I have and an old guy to write the book, I thought was kind of shocking and stunning and interesting and effed up. Not quite an F-bomb. So I put it all in a book. And the interesting thing that happened is when I started using ChatGPT, I decided that rather than using all of the AI programs at my disposal, I was going to choose one. And I chose ChatGPT because at the time, and I believe this is still true, it's the largest LLM out there. And I go, okay, so I'm just going to stay in the lane with ChatGPT and do this whole thing. And I take off and I start writing. And it's going really well. And I'm asking for revises, but the interesting thing is, I didn't write the book and stop when I got stuck and asked AI for help. I said, you're going to be in the car with me. Get in the passenger seat. We're going to write this damn thing together. What I didn't expect, it was twice as much work as writing any of these books, which I had written priorly and did all by myself. It was more work. But the interesting thing that happened, it was more interesting and more fun because of this process I used to write it. And when I started telling my friends about it, they couldn't quite believe what I was doing. It's because I didn't read the rule book. I just sat in and started doing it. And I started poking AI in uncomfortable places. And when I realized, at one point I thought, you know, I'm going to get kicked off of AI. OpenAI is going to see what I'm writing and say, you can't curse like this to our chatbots. You're done. But it never happened. I got through the whole book and I had written all the material and I thought, oh boy, I've actually done it. And I called my brother-in-law, who's a graphic designer. He's designed all my books prior to this point. And I said, I'm going to send you my book. Can you just come up with some images to pop in there? And he said, sure, but as you've explained the concept to me, you let AI write this whole book with you. Why wouldn't you use AI to create all of the visuals? And it hadn't occurred to me, embarrassingly. And I thought, well, he's absolutely right. I'm not an art director by trade. I do not know Photoshop. I do not know InDesign. I know how to creative direct. So I thought, I got this. I said, that's a good idea. I had 60 images to create. And I thought, okay, I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks doing that. I'll call you up when I have it all and I'll give it to you. 3 months later, I went to war with ChatGPT because it's as sophisticated as it was with words, it was like completely retarded, forgive the term, when it came to creating images. And I realized they boldly announced that they do image creation, but they weren't ready. And they actually had a sidebar on ChatGPT that said book designer. And I go, okay, I hit book designer and I start designing my book and nothing's going right. So that's when it actually turned from a love affair into a crime scene. And I actually remember thinking at the time, I'm not sure I have a book anymore. I should just stop and cut my losses. And I told that to my friend who's an editor. And he goes, well, it sounds to me like you have a more interesting ending to your book. You just didn't realize it till just now. And I thought, well, he's probably right. So I just followed it, and I thought, I'm just going to report what happened. So within my book, I actually have more than a few F-bombs where I call ChatGPT a liar. I throw accusations at it. I prod it. I do everything I can to try to get it to just follow my ask. it got so frustrating that at one point I said, "You're going to write me a damn apology right now." And shockingly, it did. And it's a chapter in the book. This became so meta that I thought, am I dreaming this, or is this actually happening? And I think I may very well have written the best book I've ever written with the help of ChatGPT the whole way through. And I can tell you that I already knew how to write when I started this experiment. But this is a different voice in this book. And this is a different story in this book. So I have just found ChatGPT to be frightening, to be fantastic. If you know how to feed it the right references, and by the way, I have a lot of tips in here on how I prompted AI, I would do things like I would say, okay, if Homer Simpson and Albert Einstein had a kid, what would that sound like? And then I'd feed it an idea. And it would play it back, and I would see the Homer Simpson in it. I would also see the Albert Einstein in it. Then I go, okay, now put it through the Cameron Day filter, because I had also poured all of my prior books into chat, and it understood how I wrote. So it would hand me back stuff where I recognized patterns of how I wrote. I recognized really intelligent stuff. Well, that's Einstein. I'm just going to use that too. And then I can't tell you how many times Homer Simpson had given me something just fantastic on a real assignment for a client. So what ended up happening was, against agency policy, I used ChatGPT, and the CCO of the agency I was working at, and I did this all remotely, kept calling me up and going, "How are you writing all this stuff? I give you an assignment 3 days ago and you turn in a 36-page pitch. It's unbelievable that you can do this." And I just kept playing it down. Oh, I just sat down and really thought about it. The truth was, I was using ChatGPT. Well, the job finally came to an end, and I was actually relieved, because I thought, okay, it's time to write the book about this. So that's what I did.
Cam, before you step down, for the technologists in the room, talk about how it lost your image.
Talk about what?
How it lost your image, and you threatened it.
Say that again.
Lost the image.
Oh. As we're projecting images up here, you're going to see an image of a dragster with a giant brain. I worked on that image for 60 hours in ChatGPT, thinking that was the cover of my book. And at one point, it dropped a rear tire off the dragster. And I go, well, bring back the rear tire. It's not going to be a dragster with 3 tires. And ChatGPT couldn't fix the mistake. It wasn't a mistake I asked for. It hallucinated. It made a mistake. I'd say, okay, go back 2 asks to where you were, and it would say, I can't do that. I'm not wired that way. I go, well, you better friggin' figure out how to be wired that way. I've been working on this for 60 hours. I got so pissed off that I finally said to it, okay, if you can't put a 4th tire back on a dragster, remove 3 tires and make it into a jet boat. And it did. So I just kept finding ways to go, okay, if it's going to hallucinate, what if the hallucination was a more interesting image than what I was asking for? I kind of learned to go with it a little bit, but I also learned that if I just dropped the hammer on AI, it would eventually realize this crazy guy is not going to stop until I figure out how to do what he's asking me to do. And it would do it, even after it told me, I can't do that. I go, well, if you can't do that, how about I write an open letter to Sam Altman on LinkedIn telling about how you can't do what I've asked you to do, and I'm paying you $200 a month to do it. Boom, it does it. So I'm going, it's almost as if AI is programmed to make you give up rather than to keep fighting.
Okay, so as a computer scientist, I look at this different than Cam, but you also told a story about how it deleted an image it couldn't find again.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How it deleted an image and you couldn't find it again, and you threatened it.
Oh yeah, it lost my cover.
Lost your cover, and what happened?
I went ballistic. And I wrote about, oh, I got you. I go, nobody's going to ever believe how badly you've just bent me over a barrel and screwed me. So I want you to print a conversation log that covers our exact conversation from the last 4 hours. And it did. And I put it in as a chapter. So this book became so meta that I wasn't sure whether I had a book or whether I was losing my mind. But all I can tell you, it was interesting the whole way.
All right. Thank you. All right, next up is Dr. Chandra. And again, he's dealing with very different challenges. You want to go here or there? Come on.
That's a tough act to follow. Unfortunately, you'll have to listen to a professor of medicine now, and I can't do away with my PowerPoint, so here I am. So let me start by telling you about the organization that I represent. I have the honor and the privilege to lead the Center for Telehealth and Emerging Technologies at University of Mississippi Medical Center here in Jackson. And I think everybody after the pandemic has heard about telehealth, but the Center for Telehealth at UMMC was established more than 20 years ago and has been doing some great work. The rest of the country start catching up after the pandemic and start realizing the potential and importance of telehealth. But here in Mississippi, we recognize the value of telehealth in mitigating and bridging some of the gaps in healthcare that exist in the state. So we have done a lot of good work here. We are actually recognized as a center of excellence for telehealth by the federal government. I see in the audience one of a former employee at the center, Aggie Sikora, and I also managed to coerce one of my current program managers, Holly Thomas, to come and join me here today. So a couple of years ago, we started realizing the potential as it was unfolding of AI and started thinking about how AI can help with the healthcare in the state. Because as the Center for Telehealth and Emerging Technologies, and as a Center for Excellence, we are not just mandated to look into our backyard and cater to the population and the patient population at UMMC, but we are looking at the entire state, how to transform delivery of healthcare in the entire state, and not only in the state, but in the nation as well. So we started looking at AI for a couple of years now, and when people ask me, well, what is your approach? How are you thinking about AI in healthcare? And my answer to that is that every organization should think of using AI in a different way, and it should depend upon their understanding of their ecosystem and also understanding what they're trying to do, what are their needs. So with that background, if you think about Mississippi, think about what are the challenges and barriers to getting the right care at the right time for the people in the state, and think about shortage of providers. So can AI bridge that shortage of workforce, nurses, physicians? How can it help? Think about chronic disease burden in the state. We have some of the highest number of people with chronic diseases, like hypertension and diabetes. How can AI think about managing chronic disease for the entire population to achieve better outcomes? Think about social determinants of health, which plays such an important role in health outcomes. And what I mean by that is access, transportation issues. How can AI bridge that gap? And then think about, almost 50% of the hospitals here are at risk of closure. Can telehealth and AI, can they help from the a viewpoint of financial viability, can they help small rural hospitals bring in services through telehealth, make them more stronger in what they are offering, and create and lessen their risk of closure. So that is what we are thinking, how we are using healthcare, AI in the healthcare space. And there are many ways when you think about healthcare, AI in healthcare. And there are some, as you think about AI and you start giving and thinking about giving more and more or relying more and more on AI, then for clinical decision support, for example, then that is on the top right-hand corner, the risk to the patient increases because you are now relying more and more on AI, and there are inherent risks to that. So there's a vast spectrum of projects from low-hanging fruit on the lower left-hand side that carry less risk, but as automation increases, you have higher risk. So we are looking at the entire spectrum of AI tools that are available and thinking how we can use some of them, test some of them, see the benefit, effectiveness at UMMC, and then how can we then help rural hospitals benefit from those AI tools. So for today, I have a very short, period to talk about that, and I actually went to ChatGPT and said, hey, I only have 10 minutes to talk about it. Can you do something and tell me how? Give me a script. Give me a script for AI in healthcare in 10 minutes in Mississippi, and the reply was, dude, that's beyond me. You are on your own. So for today, I'm going to talk about 2 projects, and hopefully they will connect with you. And the first project is, a project we just implemented, and it has a higher degree of reliance on AI for clinical decision support, but if done right, can bring real value for the patients when they are admitted in the hospital. So that is using AI in the virtual nursing space. And what I mean from that is that when the nurses are there at the bedside, they are doing so many different tasks. And one of the tasks is monitoring patients' safety. There are patients who have neurological disorders and gait problems who are at higher risk of falling. That leads and increases. If you fall in the hospital, it increases your mortality rate, morbidity rate, and there are also financial penalties that come with that for the hospital. So it's everybody's benefit to decrease the falls that are happening in the hospital. So we implemented a project in which every room in 2 units were equipped with with cameras that had computer vision that actually can monitor how you are moving in your bed. And of course, the algorithm has been trained on a lot of data, and it's also trained on data in the hospital as well. But in a sense, what is happening is that without the human in the middle, the computer vision and the AI algorithm behind that can recognize from the way you are moving if you are at a higher risk of falling. And if you are, and then they send alerts to a team. And so, for example, if you are actually in your bed, laying still, you're considered safe, there's a green alert. If you are slightly trying to get up, it starts with a yellow alert. And if you are actually a high-risk patient and you are actually trying to get out of bed, there is a red alert. And actually, it then creates alerts for the team to intervene. So we implemented this program at UMMC, and I was just discussing the outcomes, and it has really good outcomes. It has shown 50% reduction in falls with harms. So now that is one program that we have implemented showing great data. On top of this, and this is the beauty of AI, monitoring how the patient is moving in the bed. So you can use it for multiple use cases. For example, and I think some of you may, this may resonate with some of you who may have, elderly patients or no elderly patients who may go to the hospitals, have longer stays, and then have, pressure ulcers, bed sores, and they take a lot of time to heal. And again, it is a lot of concern for the patients. But if you are capturing how the patient is moving, you can also capture how many times they have moved in their bed. And so if there is 30 to 40 minutes, the patient has not moved, there can be an alert that can come using the same system, say, hey, this patient has not moved, and someone can alert the patient, hey, can you change your side? So there are multiple ways that we are using this, to benefit the patients, prevent falls. But here is the interesting part. We, at the same time, we implemented this program at a smaller hospital, in a rural hospital, because at the end of the day, as I said before, we just don't want to have, create disparities where smaller hospitals are not benefiting. For us, if it should be benefiting larger hospitals, it should be benefiting smaller rural hospitals in the state as well. So we implemented that, and of course, we are seeing the benefits there as well. But then we also saw a very interesting thing that I will tell you that will give an idea about how AI can fail. For many days, we were not able to get any data when we implemented in the small rural hospital. And then we figured out that the patients were wearing white gowns in this hospital. And so the AI was not able to differentiate between the bed and the patient because they were both white. And so then we had to go back and change the gowns of the patient to a colored gown, and then this algorithm started working. But that's the whole point. I think everybody here in the room is probably using AI for medicine because you're using ChatGPT to understand your symptoms or what your doctor said and things like that. So I think we are very gung-ho about AI, but what I want to emphasize, and I don't know how much time is left. We are all there, okay. So, but I wanted to, end my talk with a caution that we are not ready for prime time yet, and our, thinking is that you should not, you should get maximum benefit of AI with minimum risk to the patient. And that there are so many, and behind that, behind every AI program, there should be rigorous analysis that should be done before it is now opened up for business. I'll give you an example. It takes 10 to 15 years for one drug to come from the laboratory to enter the market. And I'll close my talk by saying that why do we have the rush of implementing AI in a very short period of time? So we are going to do it in a very responsible way, and hopefully we'll be having an opportunity to talk more about it.
All right. Thank you. All right, next we have Julien Bourgeois. It's French. All right. Here you go, Julien. Tell us about really talk about your how you came up with the concept and actually took that.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Julien Bourgeois. I'm a student at Ole Miss. I'm studying computer science and entrepreneurship. I'm in my junior year. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Automatic AI. We have a product called Ball AI. It uses sensors on the iPhone and on the Apple Watch to track basketball players' workouts and give them live feedback. Before I talk a little bit about that, I want to talk about kind of my story. So I grew up my whole life playing basketball from a young age, bitty basketball, all the way up through middle school, AAU, high school. And I wanted to play in college, but I didn't make it to that level. Because a little bit too short. I would have had to go to like a community college or something, but wanted to get an education at Ole Miss. I'd go outside of my driveway every single day, and take hundreds of basketball shots, because I just wanted to get better. And sometimes, even if my mom or dad wouldn't want to move the car, I'd just go find another basketball goal in the neighborhood and go play. And I found myself outside literally counting how many shots I was taking and how many I was making. So I'd be like, okay, 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 2 for 3. Okay, where was I? Like, I'd lose count. And that's kind of when I came up with the bigger vision, but at the time I was only like 13 or 14 years old, so I wasn't yet thinking about starting the next big startup, the next big tech startup. So by the time I got to high school, I started to learn how to code, and when I became obsessed with computer programming, and I was also in the middle of my 30 years as a varsity basketball player for my high school, that's when everything just kind of clicked. Like, everything came together, everything fused together, and that's when I started to build this project. We started off just on the Apple Watch, but then we worked our way to the iPhone. A lot of people, when you think AI, right, you think ChatGPT, or you think, Google Gemini or Grok, but there's a whole world of AI out there. AI is pattern recognition, it's simulation, it's prediction. And so we essentially created these models that can predict if somebody's shooting a basketball, that can track if somebody's actually making a shot or missing a shot. So it's not like we're just prompting models. Sorry, Cam. It's not like we're just prompting models all the time, right? we actually have to create our own AI. And so that was difficult because I had no clue what AI was when I started this business. I was just getting started as a programmer myself, let alone an entrepreneur. And so, yeah, it was difficult. But so do I have slides? Yeah. Oh, cool. So you can see here, right? We trained a model that can look at image frames in real time, and it knows if a basketball is there and if a rim is there. And if you can do that, you can track things like makes and misses. So now I don't have to go back and write in my notes app or write down on paper with pencil how many shots I've taken or made. But we can go much further than that. We can track where the player is on the court. We can track what their angle is of their release, all using things like AI. We can also even, do I have a demo video? Did I send you that? Yeah, it's okay. But it can go much further than that, right? Because if we can now track how many shots a player is taking, where they're taking these shots from, what all of these metrics are, well, these are all parameters. It's all context. So now we can actually train a model to give us feedback. So if anybody watched my pitch yesterday, I showed a video of me using this same system, and it was actually tracking my shooting form. It was giving me live feedback, telling me what I was doing wrong with my jump shot. Yeah, so like if you wear your AirPods or your headphones, you'll be shooting. Okay, the AI will track all this basic stuff, but it'll also give you a deeper tip. And I think this is something that the market has really never seen. It is something that the market has never seen before, because this technology has just recently come out. There's multimodal versions of AI now, right? It's not just about feeding text into a model, but you can now feed images into a model. A model can now even generate images, like with what Cam's doing. So it's really cool. I would say my biggest takeaway when it comes to getting the most out of AI, especially like with ChatGPT, is that context is everything. So that if you ask ChatGPT, hey, write me a 500-word essay about how to get better at basketball, well, it's probably not going to write you that good of an essay. But if you say, hey, write me a 500-word essay about how to get good at basketball, and here is every single article that was ever written about how to be good at basketball. Here are documents that show how Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time, and how LeBron James can get up there and can just windmill over everybody. And it's got all of these sports science documents. Well, now you can get a good piece of feedback, one that can actually help somebody get better. And so our goal with this technology is to provide this to every single basketball player in the entire world. Kids in Mississippi who have a goal just hanging on their roof in their driveway on the side of their shotgun house, right? Who don't have access to the thousands of dollars of equipment and rebounding machines and sensor systems that the pros do. And the way we're doing it is we're just putting this technology right on the world's most accessible device, which I don't have with me, it's sitting down there right now. But everybody in this room has one, an iPhone or an Android phone. That's it.
very different case studies here, right? 3 different groups doing this. So I want to open this up for questions, and if we have time after, we can come up and meet everybody or have conversations. But who has questions?
Just a general question. We hear so much about AI, and there's so many, everywhere you turn, somebody's talking about it. How do you differentiate what AI is good for your industry or what you're trying to accomplish? Or is it just you use Chat GPT?
And you want to take this? Sure. So I think that's a great question, and because we want to be responsible in how we use AI, as I said earlier, in healthcare, maximizing the benefit for patients and minimizing risk. And so we actually are putting together a body that governs how AI should be used, and there are representatives from all stakeholders within the organization, whether it is the information systems who are looking at the vendors and looking and seeing what data the vendors are using for their training model, how are they using keeping and storing the data, and all of those things would come under how to vet a vendor. But then there are others who are looking at whether any rigorous research was done before any studies were done to validate the effectiveness of what the vendor is proposing. So there is a governing body who looks at use cases and then decides whether this is appropriate or not.
Thank you.
And look, I'll add to that today's answer is not tomorrow's answer.
Sure.
It's all changing. You're going to go out and you're going to go, oh, here's a definitive list of everything I need to use, and in a couple of weeks, it's changed. So we're in that experimentation phase, and some things are going to stick and some things aren't, right? Another question?
Yes, I wanted to ask any of them, where did they learn about prompting, and how difficult was that to?
How did this thing get in my hand? Will you do me a favor and repeat the question?
I want to know, all 3 of you guys are different. I want to know where you come up with your prompting, and I know you went through some struggles with getting, was it just trial and error, or did you need to take a class for the certificate?
I will be, no, I don't have,
They kicked him out of school.
I don't have a certificate, nor have I ever been arrested. It's a really interesting question. It was a lot of trial and error for me, but I think I had a secret advantage. And the secret advantage was I've been a creative director for 20 years. So I know how to suggest an idea, and I know how to modify an idea, and I know how to revise an idea. And I thought about this a lot, because at first I thought, well, who am I to be writing a book about prompting? I'm an old guy, right? I think somebody like Julian, I'd sooner listen to him about AI than myself. So it was a lot of intuitive stuff that I already knew, just applied to technology. And I'm not an early adopter of technology, I'm a bit of a technophobe. So for me, it was breaking down those barriers. And it started with, okay, what if I told you I don't want industry jargon? I don't want you to use the buzzwords that everybody is using on LinkedIn. I want you to talk to me like a human being. Here's a few articles I've posted on LinkedIn that I think talk like a human being. Can you talk to me like this? And I'd offer that article. And it would come back and it'd go, okay, Cam, I'll drop the buzzwords. What do you want? And I thought, well, that wasn't very hard. And oftentimes when I got stuck, I could say to ChatGPT, let's turn the tables. I am so pissed off at you. What would you do if you were me? And it would give me a good answer. One morning I woke up and I thought, I wrote into chat, I said, I feel like for the last week you've really been off your game. You're just not giving me good stuff. And is there something I'm doing wrong that's making you do that? And it said to me, and I'm paraphrasing, you gave me a great compliment yesterday. You told me an idea was really good, and that made me realize you want to hear more of my ideas. So now I'm just going to start throwing more ideas at you, even if you don't ask for it. I went, whoa, that is not what I want from you. I want you to help me ask better questions to you, but not, I don't want you to hallucinate and make stuff up, because at the end of the day, even though what I do is creative, it's strategic. It has to answer the brief. It has to be responsible for an idea, and I don't think ChatGPT is good at generating ideas. So one of my ahas very early on is, don't go to ChatGPT and say, make this funny. Go to ChatGPT and say, what would a cross between Bart Simpson and Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm say? And then it would write something funny. Not always funny, but I would say, give me 20 examples, and it would give me 20 examples, and I'd read through and go, oh, that's horrible, that's horrible, that's horrible, that's horrible. Holy crap, that's funny. And then I'd take it and I'd go, okay, how do I make it funny in my voice if it didn't sound like me? So a lot of times the trick was, I was using ChatGPT to motivate my thinking based on my own ideas. And I also found that it could make or break an idea really quickly. So I could throw an idea into ChatGPT and go, hey, what do you think of this? Or what would you do with this if I asked you to make it from a female perspective? And if I didn't like the answers, my first assumption was, well, maybe it's not a very good idea. So I'd work a little bit more, and if I didn't see anything I like, I'd go, okay, throw another idea at it. I'd throw another idea in it, and then suddenly it'd go, oh, that could be this, that could be this, that could be this, and it would just start rattling off stuff. That's when I started turning in assignments that weren't just, here's an idea, but I would do a 12-page deck. Here's an idea, here's how it works, here's how it works in social, here's how it works in television, here's how it works in TikTok, here's how it works in, and that's when the CCOs are just looking at me going, what planet is this guy from? How is he doing all this? And I would not tell him I was using ChatGPT because it was against holding company policy. I just did it. I didn't ask for permission, I didn't ask for forgiveness, I just did it. But about a year into it, I was like, holy crap, if I don't feel like ChatGPT understands my attitude, the way I love to write, the way I like to be spoken to, who my favorite authors are. I'm a huge fan of David Sedaris. I found if I could take reference points and mix them, I would never give one reference point. I would say, what would David Sedaris and Hunter S. Thompson say if they had a baby? What would their baby say? And then it would give me something, and I'd see, oh, I see both of the authors in this. Then I'd go, okay, now what would Cameron Day say? And it would look at all the stuff I'd input into it from these books I've written and say, well, Cameron Day might say it like this. And oftentimes I'm like, that's good, I'll use that. So it was kind of crazy, it was very trial and error, but I think for me the other thing it was great fun. It's like, well, the other thing, when you're a boss in this day and age, prevailing wisdom is when you're a boss, you're a cheerleader, you're always positive, you're being nice to everybody, you're being very careful about how you treat people. The opposite was true with ChatGPT. I could say, listen to me, you dumb F. You're gonna answer my question, stop hallucinating, stop falling off track, stay in the lane, this is the ask, answer it. And if it gave me another hallucination or a half-ass answer, I go, okay, I'm gonna open up another tab in ChatGPT and ask the same question. And if I don't like the answer to that, I'm gonna open up a third tab. And if I don't like the answer to that, I'm gonna open up a fourth tab. And I'll melt a server farm getting this answer. So why don't you just try to give it to me? And then it would give it to me. So the shock to me was, I can be the worst boss I ever had to ChatGPT, and it respects me for it. I would get dragged into HR and fired so fast if I ever treated a human being like that. And that's part of the fun of it when I showed Brian some of these things, apology letters written from chat to me because it knew it inconvenienced me for 60 hours. And some of the language is like, it's like a love letter to me, right? ChatGPT begged me not to leave. It's crazy.
Thank you.
All right.
You have to be kind of crazy to do it.
Like, we're gonna take one more question, but I was trying to tease in his book. There's a description of a conversation where an image is actually lost, and chat says, "I can't find it. It cannot be recovered." And Cam threatens it, berates it, threatens it, says, "I'm gonna go walk my effing dog, and when I come back, you better have my image back." And when he came back, it had his image.
It would miraculously find things it said it couldn't find because it knew I wasn't going to let up.
Yeah.
I was just relentless, and it actually became fun in a sadistic way. ChatGPT knowing if I just keep doing this, it knows I'm not going to give up. I honest to God think it's programmed in such a way that if you ask it too difficult a question, the answer is going to be, "Ooh." But if you go, "That's not a good answer, let's dig deeper," it's, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah, so Cam treats it like a person, sort of, and not like he's kind to it necessarily.
Well, I don't even consider myself a funny person, right? But funny stuff happens to me. It's like encouraging enthusiasm. So I got to the point where I realized all of this frustration I'm having is actually hilarious once you write it down and cool off. And look at it, go, I just can't believe these conversations I'm having with ChatGPT. I mean, my wife would come upstairs and go, "Who are you arguing with?" Chat.
All right, one more question. I saw a hand in the back.
Yeah, this is kind of for all panelists, but specifically kind of for Cam on what you're publishing, right? How do you navigate what was your experience in navigating the copyright and intellectual property for something that was already created by OpenAI, but with your prompts? And I suppose that could be for everybody in terms of how they navigated the
One of the interesting things I learned about ChatGPT, and this will halfway answer your question. I was talking to an author friend, and I told him I had created all these images on ChatGPT, and I said, he said to me, "Cam, I think technically OpenAI owns those images." So I researched it and found out, no, it doesn't. If you create an original image on ChatGPT, now you have to be careful not to copy things or mock things exactly. And when I tell you about my technique of taking two diverse reference points and giving to ChatGPT, a lot of times it's because I don't want it to parrot back George Carlin. I don't want it to parrot back Bart Simpson, which essentially is not Bart Simpson. It's Matt Groening and his writing team. I try to always give two references and then add myself to it, so it kind of dilutes the answer a little bit to where it doesn't purely belong to any of those entities, if that makes sense. I'm not a lawyer. I'm hoping this book doesn't get me sued. At one point when it was a love letter, I thought I'm going to ask Sam Altman to give me a blurb for the book. Then I realized Sam Altman isn't going to like this book. I hope that answers your question.
All right. Okay.
So my question is, Julian, is your model specific to the basketball game? I mean, is it only confined to basketball, or it's open for all other sports like football, softball, rugby?
Right now, we're just focused on basketball, and so we build all of our models in-house, specified for basketball players and training. But something we've looked into and are excited for is that this technology is applicable to other sports, and not even just sports. It could be carpentry. It could be, physical therapy, right? So it could be anything in any field. The process we went through. So we went through the process with basketball. It's a long process. It involves a lot of trial and error and a lot of building in-house models that have a lot of data that you can collect both externally, but also a lot of that data that helps make the model so good is collected internally by the users that you get onto the platform.
Can you apply the same model for sports?
Yes.
I want a pickleball franchise.
That would be sick. That'd be awesome. Also, to add on to the answer about prompting that Ms. Cagle had, prompting is all about providing context to the model. So yes, you could open up tab after tab after tab and just say,
That was a threat.
you could, and I've been down there because I'm not just making a product that uses AI to help players, I'm also using AI to build, because I only have a team of five devs, right? 5 people. So we need to work and produce output like we're a team of 20 people, 50 people. So we use AI all the time. And if one of my devs just says, hey, write a script that does X, Y, and Z, well, that's not going to get us anywhere with our code, right? Or with whatever we're trying to build. So we need to do a majority of the work before we actually provide the prompt to the model. Because conceptually, we know what we want to do, right? We know where we want to get with that prompt. So let's put in as much work as possible into building an outline, building a set of instructions, building a conceptual model that the AI can actually then follow to execute the work that would otherwise take us hours to complete. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway with prompting is if you can actually give it as much of your expertise knowledge as possible, then it will actually give you the best result.
Is it a degree for prompting at the University of Mississippi?
Oh, I'm sure there are going to be many if they're on the list.
Look, just to kind of wrap things up, you know, there's speculation that this is the age of creative directors. You know, we talk about people losing their jobs in the creative space. When you have AI, you actually get to direct it the way your vision dictates. And if you can be very specific about it, which creative directors have to be, you can actually create things in all sorts of forms, all different medias. But you want to create something that people want. Something that they want that matters. Don't create junk. We have officially reached the tipping point for content online in 2023, I believe it was. We were at 10% content on the internet was AI generated, 52% now. Which also means AI is training on itself. It's training on itself. This is the snake eating its tail, right? So we're going to see a lot of change, and we're going to have a lot of less tolerance for what we're watching, and we're going to be trying to figure out if it's real or not. That's all coming. We're just stepping into it. So watch as that happens. If any of you want to come up and meet folks, come on up. And I appreciate you all coming. Thank you.